Well, greetings, fellow dreamers. My name's Trev, and I'm going to take you through all of these Dreams tutorials. These are all just the pre-made ones from Media Molecule themselves. So, like I just said, this game is made by Media Molecule, the developers of Little Big Planet. So it's a lot of creation involved, as well as user-generated content. And let's get started on the very first tutorial. And this is just part one of this series. I'm not sure if we'll get through everything tonight. I doubt it. And just to show you before we get into this one, we've got logic, gameplay, animation, audio, art, and then this is if we want to learn with the motion controllers, as opposed to right now I'm just using the regular DualShock controller. And each of these tutorials that we'll be getting to, they do have subcategories, so once you go into the animation, for example, or the logic, for example, there'll be sub-tutorials that you'll have to go through, and each of these, they'll have several steps. So there's a lot to get through, and let's get started. Start Dreaming, part 1 of 4. And I've already done all these. I've already beat every tutorial, so I'm going to be restarting them all.
Welcome to the first Start Dreaming interactive tutorial. Play along, or just watch the video. It's up to you. Scenes are like levels in a game, or scenes in a movie. They're made up of elements. Elements are like the props, sets, music, effects, and the characters in a game or movie. Basically, anything that you can build inside a scene and save to the Dreamiverse. Scenes are connected together to form dreams, which are the games, movies, and experiences you'll find when you're dream surfing. But we're not here to dream surf. We're here to dream shape, or rather, to master dream shaping. When you're ready to power into edit mode, select the arrow button on the video to start the next step. You know we're in edit mode because the assembly menu is at the top of the screen. That's where you'll find all the tools you need to make scenes. The assembly menu is opened and closed by pressing the square button. You won't need it just yet, so go ahead and close it with square. Now, something to do.
So I'm hitting square.
Yes. I'm in a bit of a sticky situation because our Dreamiverse explorer Connie got ticked off at me yesterday. She's gone off in a huff, and I want to apologise.
What's cool is you can pause these videos. I just paused it just to show you.
I'm not so worried.
And if you miss something, you can hit this 10-second rewind, which I might be doing
Connie
eventually.
always leaves clues wherever she goes. Before we follow her mysterious clues, you'll need to learn how to move in scenes. Let's start by looking around. Right now, you can see a cloud with shapes on it in front of you. If you push the right stick left and right, you'll be able to look around the scene. Is there an orange cone around here? You found it. I think there's a blue cube around here somewhere too. See if you can find that one. Now try looking up with the right stick and find the pink pyramid. That's the one. Okay, let's turn back towards the shapes floating on the cloud. Connie's always doodling on things that are lying around. Move around the cloud using the left stick. Push it left and right to move sideways, and up and down to move forwards and backwards. Remember that. Left stick to move, right stick to rotate your view. Easy. Can you see anything here that looks like a clue? Once you've got something, we can get on Connie's trail. If you want to re-watch this step, you can. Hover your imp over the buttons on the video to see what they do. Use the skip buttons to move between tutorial steps. Or just rewind 10 seconds if you miss something. Grab and move the video with your imp using R2, if it gets in your way. You can also minimize the video, or make the video full screen if you prefer. When the video is full screen, you can see more information about the steps. Once the video is finished, select the arrow icon to move on to the next step.
So you can be more of a spectator, or you can just have it minimized.
Did you find that clue? It was on the back of one of those shapes, right? Looks a bit like a rocket. A cryptic message from Connie. Why don't you look around with the right stick for any rocket-related mischief? Oh, look over there, on that cloud. Those shapes look a lot like the ones in Connie's clue. Go on, fly over there and check it out. Remember, pushing up on the left stick moves you forwards, and you can use the right stick to change direction. Once you reach the cloud, make sure you're looking right at the cylinder and the cone. When you're ready, move on to the next step.
Alright, so far pretty easy. The controls are very natural, kind of just like a first-person shooter. Right joystick look,
Think
left
back
joystick
to
move.
Connie's first clue. The cone was on top of the cylinder, right? But how
Right.
can you move them? Well, in edit mode, you interact with everything using your imp. The very tip of your imp's pointy part. See how there's an icon in a circle there? That shows you what tool the imp is using. And since it's the arrows icon, the imp must be using the move tool. That's the default tool in edit mode, because editing a scene means moving things around a lot. Let's see the imp in action. First, grab the cone. Hover over it with your imp and hold the R2 button. Now your imp has it, use the motion sensor function to move it around. Try to put it on top of the cylinder, just like in the clue. Use the left stick to move the cone backwards and forwards. Objects in scenes can intersect and overlap, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Get it roughly into place, and I'll show you how to refine it later. Once you're done, you're ready for the next step.
So far so good. I keep saying that.
That looks pretty good, at least from this angle. Creating scenes in three-dimensional space means you should look at your creations from different angles. The easiest way to do that is with the grab cam. Instead of moving the objects you grab, GrabCam moves your point of view around them. Try it out on the cone. Hover over it, then press and hold R1.
Press and hold R1.
Now pushing the left and right sticks moves your point of view around the cone. Easy. Now you can get a proper look at it, check that the cone is on straight. So, not like mine. Let go of R1 to stop using the GrabCam. And use R2 to make any adjustments you need. Here's a little secret.
Sorry.
The harder you press R2, the more tightly you'll grab the cone. If you hold R2 lightly, you'll be able to move the cone slowly and have more control over it.
Dang, I
Once
totally
you're
forgot
happy
about
the cone
that.
is straight, you can move on to the next step.
Good enough. That was an important tip too, by the
Hey,
way,
look.
where it says if you hold R2 all the way, you move it quick. But if you just gently hit R2, you can just move and you can finesse it around a little. Which honestly, I forgot. And I've been putting about 20 hours into this so far. Okay, okay. I think we can skip now. But I
Did
feel
you
like they do a
find
really,
Connie's last clue?
really good job with these tutorials.
It was on the back of the orange cube. Not sure what it means. Can't see any other green trash cans around. Unless, of course, the trash can is the icon for the delete tool. Connie's so devious.
No.
She must want us to delete the orange cube. You can delete anything in edit mode using the triangle button. Just hover your imp over the cube, then press triangle. Hey, it's gone. We'll show Connie. Delete the orange sphere next. But if you change your mind or delete the wrong thing, you can press undo, which is the left directional button. And if you want to redo, just press the right directional button.
Left on the D-pad, right on the D-pad.
You can
Left,
undo and
right.
redo pretty much anything, not just deletions. Oh, look! There was a clue hidden in the cube. An arrow. Must be another one like it nearby. Look around with the right stick and see if you can spot it.
Ooh, an arrow. Could it be a
Once
clue?
you found it, you can move on to the next step.
So it's probably that clue. Next step.
That
Next
was
tutorial.
Connie's final clue, telling us where to go. The cloud was right above us. I know you're an expert in moving around with the left and right stick now, but I've got one more technique to show you. Remember how holding L1 changed what the grab can did? Well, it can also change what the left stick does. Normally, it moves you backwards and forwards in the direction you're facing. But if you hold L1 at the same time, the left stick will make you move up and down instead.
So forward and
Try
back.
getting up to the last cloud
L1,
that
forward
way.
and back. That's how you elevate
Position
yourself.
yourself so you're looking at the orange arrow that's pointing up.
So want me to
Now
go back
hold
down?
L1 and push up on the left stick. We have liftoff.
L1, up.
Keep pushing the left stick until you reach the cloud. When you're ready, move on to the next step.
Well, let's roll.
And here she is, Connie!
Connie!
Sorry about ticking you off before, Connie.
doesn't look
Hopefully
very
you can do something kind for her. Let's help her walk through the door and end this scene. But to do that, we're going to have to switch over to play mode. Remember, right now you're in edit mode, which is where you create and edit your scenes. In play mode, you can experience the scene just like a player would if they'd found it in the Dreamiverse. You can't make any changes in play mode, but you can take control of characters and try out what you've made. Switch over to play mode now. Just press the options button on your controller. Hover over the controller icon with your imp, then press X to select it. To control a puppet in a scene, you first need to possess them with R2. So do that with Connie now, and walk through the door with her to finish the tutorial.
Hit R2 to possess her.
Looks like the door's too high. There's more to Connie than meets the eye though. She might be able to reach if you make her jump by pressing X. I remember now. She's mad because I always forget to put the steps in. Better head back into edit mode. To switch back to edit mode, just press options again, then select the pencil icon. Did you see those stairs on the cloud below us? Those might come in handy now, so strafe down to them with L1 and the left stick.
I think I deleted them. Oh, but it'll tell
If
us.
you've deleted
Watch.
the stairs, you can use undo by pressing the left directional button.
Pretty smart, huh?
Just keep pressing it until the stairs come back. Okay, press and hold R2 to grab them. And without letting go,
Grab with R2.
hold L1 and use the left stick to strafe back up to Connie.
Strafing up.
Now place the stairs in front of the door and let go of R2. There, that should do it. It's back to play mode now. Remember, press options, then select the controller icon with X. You'll be switching back and forth between edit and play mode a lot when you're creating your own scenes. It's a great way to test out your scenes, making sure they look and work just how you want them to. Okay, I think we can get Connie to the next tutorial now. All we need to do is walk Connie through the door. Possess Connie with R2 and climb up the stairs. Once you walk through the door, this tutorial will be over.
Over. So far, it's the real easy stuff. Nothing very difficult, you know. can return in the story at any time to continue and replay. So we did our first one. Good job, team. We don't need the reward, we're just going to continue. So I believe that was all of... Well, so I do anticipate this entire series, if I'm able to make it through all of them before the beta is over, probably to take between 2.5 to 6 hours total. I'm not really sure. Depends on how long it takes, I guess. But we're just going to go through as much as we can, as quick as we can, but not too quick. I want you to see what's happening. I'm trying to see,
Welcome to the second Start Dreaming tutorial.
I don't want to cut this guy off.
Now that you've got the hang of moving things around in edit mode, you can master manipulating objects. Just as well, because Connie's friend Cuthbert fell asleep in the Dreamiverse and got stranded. We need to fix those platforms if she's going to reach the flag and get to Cuthbert. Before we start, you can switch to play mode to see how a player would experience this scene. You'll always need to test things out in play mode while dream shaping, so it's a good habit to get into. Press the options button, then select the controller icon with X. Once you're in play mode, take control of Connie with R2 and we'll see how far she can go. Start by jumping over to the first platform. Ouch! Looks like it's too far for Connie. Move that first platform closer. To do that, head back into edit mode.
Head back into edit mode.
So open the options menu and select the button with the pencil icon. Once you're in edit mode, move on to the next step.
Alright, we're back in edit mode. I was just goofing around there. I deleted everything though, so we're starting fresh.
We have to do something about these platforms if Connie's going to reach the other side. First, let's get a good look at them. Move your view side onto Connie and the first pink platform. Don't forget, you can hold L1 while using the left stick to strafe up and down.
Strafing.
See the dotted outlines? That's where the platforms should be. So let's put them in place with the Move tool. The imp has this equipped by default. To move things, hover the tip of your imp over them and press and hold R2.
I think I must not have reset this level. It looks like I already completed it. So we're gonna kind of reset it just manually. Resume.
Move where you want it and release R2.
So hold
Try
R2
it
on
now
this.
with the pink platform. Grab it with R2, slide it over so it lines up with the pink outlines, and release R2. You can get a slower, more precise movement if you hold R2 softly. Use the left stick to move the platforms backwards, forwards, left and right. And if you need to try again, just undo your move by pressing the left directional button.
Oops, I could undo.
When the platform is in the right spot, you're ready for the next step.
So I apologize. I'm trying to kind of reset things without you noticing.
Now the first platform is in position. Let's test it out. Open the options menu and select play mode with X. Connie's on the starting platform, ready for another try. Take control of her with R2 and see if she can jump over the gap now.
Yay, we made it!
Hope she made it this time.
Yeah.
If
Oh, they
not,
jump.
You can always go back and edit things again.
Like how her
In fact,
arms.
Let's try doing that now and see what happens. Select edit mode from the options menu.
Sorry.
And look at that! Connie isn't in her starting place anymore. That's because time passes when you're in play mode, and the scene doesn't rewind automatically when you return to edit mode. Instead, things will be frozen in the state you left them when you were playing. Always keep this in mind when switching modes. But you can easily rewind things.
Yes, you can.
Just press L3 by clicking the left stick on your controller and everything will rewind back to the beginning. Doing this won't reset any changes you made in edit mode. See, Connie is back to her starting position, but the platform remains where you moved it. Try to get into the habit of rewinding scenes after you play them. That way you'll avoid any problems. There are times when it's useful to leave things as they are after playing, but when in doubt, rewind. Alright, if your platform is in the right place and you've had a successful test run with Connie, you can move on to the next step.
Let's go.
Let's sort out the next platform now. It's the blue one that's lying on its side. Before you can match it up with the outline, you'll need to stand it upright. So, you'll have to rotate it first. You can rotate objects in edit mode by grabbing them with L2. That's right, we won't be using R2 this time. When you grab things with L2, using the motion sensor function and the control sticks will rotate them instead of moving them around the scene.
L2.
Give it a go now. Hover over the blue platform, then press and hold L2. Now you can rotate it by tilting your
it's
controller,
brave.
which is a great way of making smaller
Whoa.
adjustments.
Oh, this could be cool if I recorded it.
You can
Make it
also
a hazard.
rotate it fully by using the left and right sticks while holding L2. The platform will rotate in different directions depending on how you push the sticks. The
Left
motion
stick,
sensor
right
function
stick,
is
left
disabled
stick,
when you do
right
this,
stick.
so you don't have to worry about tilting your controller. If you want to
that's
reactivate
good.
the motion sensor function, just let go of the shape and grab it again with L2. Bear in mind that your IMP's tip is at the center point of the rotation, so you can grab the platform at different points and see how it affects the rotation.
That's an important tip right there. Depending on where you grab it,
All
that's
that
the rotation
rotating
point.
has made a bit of a mess. So let's undo all that with the left directional button and start again. Grab and hold L2 over the platform and try to rotate it into a vertical position.
Roger.
Once you have it more or less upright, you can let go of L2. And this time, grab the platform with R2 so you can move it into the matching blue outline. Remember, holding R2 more softly will let you move the platform with more precision.
I hit
And if
triangle
you're
there
feeling
too.
really adventurous, you can try rotating it with the touchpad too.
If I hit
That's
triangle,
quite a lot of buttons to remember, isn't it?
if I hit triangle
Well,
here,
if you ever forget what
it'll
to
realign
press,
it. Boom.
just look at the prompts around your IMP. Or select the mode icon in the top left of the screen with X. They'll tell
Mode
you
icon.
what buttons you can use in any situation.
It's just different
Practice
modes.
rotating things with L2 until you're comfortable, then move on to the next step.
Different modes in this game when you're creating. If I look at these, if I look at all the different modes, there's sculpt mode, paint mode, code mode, style mode, effects mode, sound mode, test mode. Right now, assembly mode is just kind of your basic mode, which is kind of always going to bounce back to that. But anyway, let's keep moving.
Now that you know how to rotate objects, here's a useful tip. When you rotate something by hand, like this platform, it might end up a little wonky. But there's a really simple way of fixing that. You can realign objects by grabbing them with L2 or R2 and then pressing triangle. This will snap the angle of whatever shape you're grabbing to the nearest right angle. Make sure you're grabbing an object before you press triangle though, or you might end up deleting it.
I wasn't really paying attention there.
If you do delete something by accident, remember you can undo that by pressing the left directional button. Once you're happy with the position and alignment of the blue platform, you should switch over to play mode and test it out.
Let's test her out.
So, select the controller icon in the options menu and possess Connie to see how far she can get. You're almost there now. Just need to switch back to edit mode and fix that final for. Remember to
Press
rewind
start,
with
go to
L3
edit.
to reset the scene, and we can go on to the next step.
Got it. Next step. We're cruising, folks.
Now
Hope
it's
you're
just
learning
us
stuff.
and the orange platform.
What up,
But-
kitty?
It looks a bit small compared to the others. I'm not sure Connie will be able to use it, no matter how much you rotate it. Let's start to make objects bigger, or as we dream shapers say, scale them up. Scale objects up or down by using the up and down directional buttons. Try
Okay.
hovering over the orange platform now, and hold the up directional button to make it bigger. The orange square on the floor tells you what size the platform's base needs to be. It's also a good idea to get the top of the platform level with all the others. Remember how the imp was the centre point of a rotation earlier? Well, here its position determines where the object scales from. Try hovering over the platform in different places and see how that affects the scaling. And if it gets too tall, you can just hold the down button to shrink it.
Okay.
Now that you know how to move, rotate and scale things, you should be able to get the orange platform into its matching frame at the right height.
I like to go outside the grid, if you know what I
Alright.
mean.
When everything is where it should be, go into play mode and see if Connie can reach the flag.
Oh, you better believe it.
Once
we're gonna
Connie
come
reaches
from the flank.
flag, head into edit mode again and go to the next step.
Oh. Wait, next step. I don't want to end it too soon. Let's rewind.
Connie and Cuthbert have been reunited,
Oh.
but now they've got to find a way out before Cuthbert falls asleep again.
Oops.
So let's learn how to add a door.
There's no
Go
door
to
there.
the assembly menu, which is the row of buttons at the top of the screen.
Didn't see that.
The assembly menu disappears when you're busy working on a scene, to make sure it doesn't get in the way.
This will have VR support
So if you can't see it,
at launch.
just
Well,
press square to open it.
hitting square, square, square. This game will have VR
Here
support.
you'll find all the assembly tools and gadgets. It's
Instead of using my DualShock right now, I could, if I wanted to right now, turn on 2 move controllers and edit with my move controllers. So I'm sure that'll incorporate into virtual reality, where you can edit in
where the
virtual reality
search button lives,
with your moves.
the one with the magnifying glass. Select it with X now.
So I went up here and
The
hit
search
search.
button takes you to the Dreamiverse, where you'll find all the things created by dreamers from around the world. But for this tutorial, I've selected a collection of elements that you can use in this scene. Let's see if we can find a door in the Start Dreaming collection. Select it with X. So, what elements do we have in the Start Dreaming collection? Look around. Ah, there
Cute.
it is, a door.
There's a door.
Select it with X now.
Let's get the door.
And now that your imp has it, you can scale it with the up and down buttons,
Super tiny.
or rotate it with
Up,
L2 or the
makes it
touchpad.
big. Rotate it.
See
with
the
L2.
outline at the top of the final platform? That's where the door
Yes.
needs to go. Use R2 or X to stamp it into place. You should know this isn't just any door, it's a very special one. Because of the animation and logic built into it, it will magically open when Connie goes near it. Notice how your imp still has a door even after you've stamped it down. That's what happens with elements from the Dreamiverse. That way you can place as many as you need in a scene. We only need one door in this one though, so you can remove the door element from your imp by pressing circle. The circle button removes whatever tool, gadget or element your imp has equipped, replacing it with the move tool. Well, I think we're done here. Nice work completing the scene for Connie. It doesn't mean you have to stop though. If you're feeling creative, why not come up with different ways for Connie to get across the platforms, using more elements from the collection? Just delete the old platforms with the triangle button and build your own. Remember to test your creations in play mode to make sure they work, and rewind the scene each time you return to edit mode. All that's left now is to switch to play mode and wander Connie straight through the door to end this tutorial.
Alright, let's finish her up. It's so cool how easy it is to copy and paste stuff. Yay, we did it! Tutorializing. Is this evolution of Little Big Planet? Well, this is the creators of Little Big Planet, and it's Little Big Planet 2019. Little Big Planet is Little Big Planet 2009 or whatever. When did I even come out? This is next level shit right here. This is, pardon my language, but oh my goodness. Continue. Little Big Planet. You could make anything you could make in Little Big Planet in this. Easy, way easier. Okay, so we did steps 1 and 2. We're on to 3 in the Start Dreaming tutorial. So we're still just early tutorials, and we're gonna restart this time instead of screw it up and play it again. And I gotta delete. All right, so here we go.
Now you know how to grab, rotate, and scale objects. I think it's time I showed you how to clone things. It'll come in useful now that Cuthbert seems to have got himself stuck again.
I should do this more often. The screen.
If I can get Connie to help, we can use the clone tool to rescue him. With this tool, you can make exact copies of anything in the scene, which makes it one of the most useful tools in a Dreamshaper's toolbox. You'll also get a chance to practice all the other tools that you've learned so far. If we get Connie off this platform, maybe she'll help us out. Let's use the clone tool on this one small block to create a bridge. Remember how we used the L1 button to modify how the grab cam and the left stick work? Well, it can also change how the grab button works. Hover over the floating block with your imp and hold L1. Now grab the block with R2. And remember that if you press it gently, you can move it more slowly. And now you have another block. That's because grabbing things while holding L1 creates a clone of that object. Once you've created the clone, you can release L1. But don't let go of R2 until you want to place it in the scene.
So I'm doing L1 and R2.
When
L1,
you found
R2.
the right spot, release R2 to put it down. You can treat a cloned object just like you would any other element. You can move it with R2, rotate it with L2, and scale it up and down with the directional buttons. And of course, anything you do to the block can be undone with the left directional button. You can even clone the cloned block. So let's do that next. Hover over it, hold L1, then press and hold R2.
Hold
you can
L1,
either use
R2.
the clone tool to build a bridge between the first two platforms, or you can create floating blocks for Connie to jump on. All that matters is that she can get to the next platform, so make sure you test your work in play mode. When Connie can get across, go back to edit mode, rewind the scene with L3, and move on to the next step.
She made it! So it tells us make sure you hit left click to rewind to get her back to the start, and we're going to move on.
Getting Connie to that third platform looks easy enough. There's half of an arched bridge between them, so we can just clone this block to finish it off. Okay then, hold L1 and grab the block with R2 to clone it. Let go of L1 to stop cloning. Then place the clone by releasing R2 to complete the bridge.
I'm holding R2 still.
That doesn't look quite right. Might need to try something different here. Why don't we rotate the clone by holding L2 over it, then push the right stick sideways?
Hold R2, right sticks to the right.
Well, it's better. but now the designs don't match.
They don't
We should
match.
probably undo everything with the left button and start again.
Okay, okay, I'm fine with
This
that.
time, we'll make the arches match up by flipping the clone. Here's how you flip objects. First, hover over the arch and hold L1. Then gently grab the arch with R2 to create a clone.
R1, R2.
Remember, release L1 once you've made the clone. You have to release it so the next part works. Here comes the cool part. While still holding the arch,
Still
click
holding
the
R2.
L3 button on your controller
Left
to
click.
flip the arch horizontally. That's all there is to it.
Left click,
Now
left
you
click,
try.
left click while holding R2.
Hold L1. Gently grab
Just like
the
Little Big
arch with
Planet.
R2 to clone it.
From what I remember.
Release L1, and finally, flip the arch horizontally by clicking L3. And don't forget that you can realign the clone while you're holding it by pressing triangle. Now let's see what happens if you click R3. Nice! The arch is flipped vertically instead. We should probably line it up with the first arch now, and release R2 to place it down.
Why would I want to do that?
We probably should have flipped it back first. No problem.
Duh.
I'll just grab it with R2 and flip it again with R3. Time to switch over to play mode and see how things are working.
Sure, let's give it a try.
If Connie can get across the bridge to the third platform, you're ready to move on.
What's up, Chaos?
But first, return to edit mode and rewind the scene.
I'm always watching your shit. I don't comment ever, but... Oop, okay, I gotta recenter here. Whoa, what happened? Oh. Okay, we gotta go back to edit. So, this is mostly a tutorial, but, you know, it is also a live stream, so...
Okay, Connie, we've almost made it to the
Love
door.
seeing you guys pop in and out.
But Connie's going to have to go across
Nice.
and up now. Good
Chaos,
thing you already know how to make clones,
I gotta
because we're
private
going
message
to.
you some games I want you to play.
So hold L1 and grab the block with R2 to clone it. Now place that clone a little higher
Got some
than the original,
Dreamcast.
and you know what? There's a better way.
Sorry, I was distracted. Let's
Place
rewind a
that
little.
clone a little higher than the original, and how to make clones, because we're going to need them. So hold L1 and grab the block with R2 to clone it.
Holding L1, R2.
Now place that clone a little higher than the original, and you know what? There's a better way.
What was a better
So
way?
let's undo that with the left directional button.
Left on the D-pad, undo.
We're going to try a new technique called repeat cloning. I bet you
Repeat
can
cloning.
already guess what it does. That's right, it lets you make lots of clones at once.
Okay.
Let's give it a go. Hover over the block again, hold L1 and gently press and hold R2.
L1, R2.
Release L1 once you've made the clone.
Okay, let
and
go of
move the
L1.
block up and along.
Okay.
Don't put it down yet though. This is where you become a cloning expert.
Yes. Sounds cool.
Without letting go of the first clone, press the right directional button to create a second one.
Right on the D-pad.
And you
Boom.
guessed it, another press will
Oh!
create a third one. In fact,
Oh.
you can just keep pressing right to create more and more
Just a
clones
million.
in a sequence. And if you make too many, no problem. Just press left to remove any clones you don't want.
Excuse
As you
me.
can see, all the clones are spaced evenly, and you can move the whole sequence by simply moving the clone that's on your imp. If you move the clone up, you can create a staircase.
Look at that.
As always, put it down by releasing R2.
I'll tell you.
Once the clones are in place, they won't be in a sequence anymore. You'll have to edit each block individually.
That's
See
fine.
the dotted line around them? That's a selection. When you put repeat clones down, they're always selected automatically. That means you can move them as
Right
a group.
afterwards. After you clone them, you can do this. But then once you
If you only
deselect,
want to move one block, you can deselect the object by
So
pressing
deselect.
the circle button.
and now you can edit them individually.
There's a whole tutorial on selecting and grouping objects if you want to find out more. Move on to the next step when you're ready.
So now they're all selected. So I could, if I wanted to, I could edit them all right now. But as soon as I actually deselect, now they're all individual and I have to do them individually. Let's keep moving. This is great. I hope people are
Let's
learning
get
from
back to the
this,
staircase.
because I
It's looking
still.
pretty good. But I have one more thing to show you before you move on. Let's get rid of all the clones we've made by pressing the left button a few times. You'll notice all the repeated clones are undone together.
Mm-hmm.
Now hover over the first block, hold L1, then grab it to create a new clone. Remember
L1,
to release
R2.
L1 once you've made the clone.
I let go of our
Otherwise
L1.
the next bit won't work. This time, move the block where you want the last step of the staircase to be.
Oh, we want the last step
Right
here.
in front of the door.
Well,
Don't let go of R2 yet though.
okay. Still holding
Instead,
R2.
Press the left directional button and look at that.
Boom. So instead
You've
of
created
right,
a sequence of clones
instead of
between
right,
your imp and the original block.
we're doing left.
You can
to
keep
fill it in.
pressing left to create more steps.
So you
or
can
right
clone
to
it
remove them.
outward, or you could clone it
Once you're happy with your staircase,
inward.
let go of R2 to place it in the scene.
So yeah, you could
can
do it
create incredible shapes with
this
this
way,
cloning, so feel free to experiment.
but
How
it's
you
probably
position
better
the
to do it
first clone
this
will
way,
affect all the
because you can
repeated
align the
clones.
very first block and the very last block.
Rotating the clones, for example, will let you build ramps and spirals.
Whoa, did you hear that?
And if you scale the clone with the up button, you can create a sequence that increases in size.
Holy crap, look at this.
So try different approaches and see what you can come up with. If the path is clear for Connie, switch over to play mode to test the scene. Get Connie to the final platform and then get her to open the door for Cuthbert. If you feel like you've mastered cloning and flipping, walk Connie through the door to complete the tutorial. Good work, Connie.
It's funny how I've played so much of this game already. I've already went through all these tutorials, and I went to creation mode, and I've been creating a ton of stuff for hours and hours. But even going through these very simple tutorials, I'm still learning things that I just missed. So if you played this before, I recommend just going through it again after you've gotten a hang of it. Because at first it's so overwhelming, you're just trying to learn the basics and you're missing like the little things that eventually you don't even realize you can do. Yay! Easy. Easy for me to say. 3 of 4. Well done. Da da da. You can replay it. And we are on to the final part of our Start Dreaming tutorials. So the very first segment. And it's already taken how long? I can't even tell. It's hard to tell on the iPad. Part 4 of 4, Start Dreaming tutorial. 5 steps. Practice. Da, 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 da. We're going to restart it because I've already beat it one time.
Welcome to part 4 of our Start Dreaming tutorials. This time round, I'll show you how to select and group your creations, as well as how to scope in and out of groups. I see Cuthbert has managed to get himself stranded again. Connie, how do you put up with him? What a silly cube. Well, with Connie's help, we can get him out. And at least someone left behind a block for us to use. Remember how to repeat clone blocks to create a bridge? Well, let's do that again. Move your view side on to the block and the gap. Hold L1, then gently grab the block with R2. Move it with the motion sensor function to create a clone. Just like last time, let go of L1 while still holding R2. Then press the directional buttons to make more clones. If you rotate the first block a little before you clone it, you can make an arch. Use L2 to make the first block angle up slightly. Then make the clone angle down. Press the left directional button to repeat clone, and the clones will line up to make an arch. Amazing, right? Let's quickly test that in play mode. Looks great. Switch back to edit mode, rewind the scene, and go to the next step of the tutorial. You probably noticed that all the blocks, the original one as well as its clones, were all selected automatically after cloning. You can tell when things are selected because they have an animated dashed outline. But after switching back and forth between play and edit modes, everything was deselected. So, let's select them again. All you have to do is hover your imp over one of the blocks and press X. There's the outline again. Now do the same to the rest until the whole bridge is selected. See how each block has its own outline, with a double line where they meet. That's because they're still individual elements. You can deselect them one at a time with X, but it's much quicker if you deselect them all at once with circle. Give it a try. There's also a faster way of selecting multiple objects. Just select one as before, but this time keep X held down. Now move your imp to select the others. Better than selecting them one at a time, right? So much faster. The great thing about having multiple objects selected is that you can manipulate them as if they were one object. For example, if all the blocks are selected, you can clone the bridge sideways to create a double bridge. Plenty of room for Connie to cross it without falling off the edge. Try it out in play mode. Once Connie's across the gap, go back to edit mode and move on to the next step. You know, this bridge would be really useful to help Connie cross to the next platform. Use X to select all the blocks again. If we're going to use this bridge a lot, we can make it into a group. That way it will behave like a single element, and you won't have to keep selecting all the blocks. Notice the menu that appears at the side of the screen when you have one or more objects selected. That's a context menu, which means all the options it gives you will depend on the situation you're in. In this case, all the options are about selected objects. Look for the plus sign, which is the icon for the group button. The number next to it tells you how many objects you have selected. You can use this button now to turn all of those blocks into a group. Ta-da! The bridge is now a single element. You can tell because it has one outline around it, instead of one around each block. And if you look over at the context menu, you'll see the group button now says ungroup, in case you ever need to undo a grouping. But we still need it to help Connie now. So let's clone this bridge and place it between the second and third platforms. Just like before, hold L1 and grab the bridge with R2 to clone it, remembering to let go of L1 as always. We don't need to test the bridge to see it's not going to get Connie to the third platform. But don't worry, we'll fix that in the next step when you're ready to move on. Our bridge needs a little work if it's going to reach the next platform, which is the perfect opportunity to learn a new technique, scoping in. Scoping in means you can jump into a group and edit its contents individually without having to ungroup it first. And since you can only edit things inside the group, you don't have to worry about messing up anything outside it. Let's give it a try now. Select the bridge with X if it isn't already. Then, see the Scope In button near the bottom of the context menu. Ah, it's showing you a shortcut for it. L1 and X. So, hover over the bridge group, hold L1 and press X. And now you're scoped in. We can now edit all the parts as if it wasn't a group. If you really want to focus on just the group, you can hide everything else in the scene. Just select the eye icon in the context menu to hide and unhide the rest of the scene. There's also a Scope Out button in the top right corner. This is how you exit groups. Try scoping out now. Select the button with X or use the shortcuts L1 and circle. That's it. Now scope back in again so we can fix the bridge. Just hover over it, hold L1 and press X. I think what Connie needs to reach the next platform is a staircase. So use the Move and Clone tools to create a new one. Once you've built the staircase, test it in play mode. To make sure Connie can make it across. When you're happy with it, switch back to edit mode, rewind the scene and move on to the final step of the tutorial. Have you created a wonderful staircase? I'm sure you have. Connie just needs a little more help before she can save poor old Cuthbert from himself. Luckily, you can now simply clone your staircase group to reach the final platform. Use the clone shortcut L1 and R2 to copy the staircase group to the last platform. Don't forget to let go of L1 once the clone has been created. That's how handy groups are. If you select the group, you'll even see in the context menu a button to save the group as a new element. Saving a group as an element means you have it to use in other scenes or to share in the Dreamiverse. Now that you've mastered selecting and grouping, I'll leave you with a thought to ponder. Did you know you can also make a group inside a group? With that, I will let you experiment. Once you're happy you've mastered selecting, grouping and scoping, you have just one thing left to do. Go into play mode and take Connie and Cuthbert to the exit. In this tutorial, you're going to learn all about the exciting world of logic and gadgets. Wait, don't go away! It's a lot easier than it sounds, as you're about to see. Let's check out the scene. See the buttons on the platforms in front of our good friend Connie? Those activate the bridges that will take her to the next platform. At least, that's what they're supposed to do. To get them working, you'll need to connect them to the gadgets that control them. You can't see gadgets when you're in play mode, but they let you do all sorts of useful things in edit mode. You can tell gadgets apart by their colour and their icons. Green gadgets are sensors and inputs, and this one is what we call a trigger zone, which is one of the more versatile gadgets. It can trigger other gadgets when it detects something in the scene. In this case, Connie's standing on the button. Hi, Connie. If you select the gadget with X, you'll be able to see its detection zone. That's it, right there over the button. Press circle to deselect the trigger zone, and let's look at the next gadget. Red gadgets are movers and outputs, which means they make things happen in the scene. This particular gadget is a rotator, and it's connected to the first bridge. Click R3 to play the scene, and let's see what it does.
Right click.
Well, not a lot right now by the looks of it. That's because the rotator is switched off. You can tell because the gadget is dim at the moment. But if we connect these two gadgets together, we can turn the rotator on using the trigger zone. In the next step, I'll show you how.
Alright, so we're going to make it so this button turns on the rotator, something like that. If they wanted to go in a new direction, David Attenborough.
Make sure you can see both gadgets.
You like the... You gotta go with the British guy.
Sticking out of their sides.
I'd say like, what's the guy from
on the left are
Monty
inputs,
Python?
And the ones on the right are outputs. Hover over the output
Little Big
port in the
Planet
trigger
guy.
zone now, and you'll see the word detected appear. That means that when the trigger zone detects something, this output will send a signal. Before it can send that signal to the rotator though, we'll need to connect them with a wire. So hover over the detected output and press R2 or X.
X.
You'll notice your imp is now tethered to the ports by a wire. And power ports have appeared on the gadgets. It's these ports that switch gadgets on or off. Okay then, drag the wire over to the red rotator gadget and hover over the power ports at the bottom. Then press R2 or X. Once the gadgets are connected, the wire will disappear automatically. That way, your scene won't get cluttered. You don't want wires flying around all over the place. You can see the wire again by hovering over either gadget. Alright, time to test our connection out. So switch over to play mode in the options menu. That's more like it. Now the trigger zone detects Connie when she stands on the button and activates the rotator on the bridge. As soon as she steps off, the rotator stops working. So you can use the button to get the bridge lined up with the platform. Once Connie can make it to the second platform, you can head back to edit mode and move on to the next step.
Next step.
Now that we've connected the rotator, let's take a look at the second platform. See the white gadget outside? But this gadget isn't a sensor or an output. It's called a microchip. Microchips are used to organize logic in scenes. So you can think of them as boxes of gadgets and wires. Let's have a look inside it. Hover over this one with your imp, hold L1, then press X.
L1X.
It's just like scoping into a group of objects. This window is the microchip's canvas. And if these gadgets look familiar, it's because they're two rotators, with each one controlling one half of this jointed drawbridge. try to connect the output from the trigger zone to the power ports on the rotators. You can create multiple wires from the same outputs, or clone wires in the scene by holding L1, then grabbing them with R2. Clone the wire near the rotator to create a new wire from the trigger zone. Once you've connected the trigger zone to the second rotator, switch over to play mode and make sure it's all working. Okay,
I don't know about cloning
jumping
it.
on the button now will activate the trigger zone and raise the drawbridge. So you can cross over the... Oh, wait a minute. The bridge has dropped before Connie could get across. That's because the trigger zone stopped sending the signal to the rotator as soon as Connie stepped off. Switch back to edit mode and rewind the scene with L3. And in the next step, I'll show you how to make signals stay on.
Okay. So, cruising along. Next step.
If we want the bridge to stay up, we'll need to add a gadget between the trigger zone and the rotator to remember it's been activated. We can do this with the counter. So let's go into the assembly menu. Press square to open it if it's closed, and select the gadgets menu with X. You'll find the counter in the logic and processing section. These gadgets take an input signal and change it in some way before sending it on. Go ahead and select the counter. Its icon is a tally counter. Now that you can see the gadget on your IMP, hover over the microchip and it will snap onto the canvas.
Shit. Lost the
Press
canvas.
R2 or X to stamp the counter on the microchip. Then press circle to unequip it. The counter gadget counts up or down whenever it receives a signal through one of its inputs. By default, it starts its count at 0 and has a target of 1. Once it reaches that target, it sends a constant signal through its counter full output port. Before we connect it though, let's tidy up the wires connecting the trigger zone to the rotators. Just hover over them and press triangle to delete them. Now press R2 or X over the detected output of the trigger zone to create a new wire, and connect it to the increase count input port on the counter. That's the port with the plus sign icon.
Got it.
When the trigger zone is activated now, the counter will go up to 1. And this is the important part, it will stay at 1 even after the trigger zone deactivates.
So one-time activation.
Now hover over the counter full output port of the counter, which is what sends a signal when the counter reaches its targets. Create a wire with R2 or X. Connect it to one of the rotator's power ports. Then do the same for the other one.
Shit, I delete one.
Time to switch to play mode and try out our new connections.
Did I delete? Crap. The heck happened?
When you're happy everything's working as it should be, return to
Oh,
edit
was I
mode
screwing with the
and
wrong
move
one?
on to the next step.
Crap. Dum dum. Unbelievable. Oh, and then I just do that. It's alright. Got this. No problem.
If we want the bridge to stay up, we'll need to add a gadget between the trigger zone and the rotator to remember it's been activated. We can do this with the counter. So let's go into the assembly menu. Press square to open it if it's closed, and select the gadgets menu with X. You'll find the counter in the logic and processing section. These gadgets take an input signal and change it in some way before sending it on. Go ahead and select the counter. Its icon is a tally counter.
Alright,
Now that you can see
hoping...
the gadget on your imp, hover over the microchip and it will snap onto the
There.
canvas.
Did it right that time.
Press R2 or X to stamp the counter on the microchip.
Sorry, I kind of sped through
Then
that,
press circle to unequip it.
but I did go through it twice, so let's see.
The counter gadget counts up.
I pretty much just did everything on
and
the
then
second
sends
gadget
a
instead of the
signal to one
first,
its inputs.
where I should have done it the first
By
time.
default, it starts its count at 0 and has a target of 1. Once it reaches just one more bridge
Back to
for
edit
Connie
mode.
to cross. As you can see, we have another microchip on the platform. So let's open it up. Hover over it with your imp, hold L1, then press X.
1X.
Looks like we have everything we need in here. But Connie's an adventurer, so how about we make this last bridge more challenging? Adding a timer to the logic should get the adrenaline going. Once Connie activates the button, she'll only have a few seconds to cross before the bridge drops back down. Let's head back to the assembly menu. If it isn't already open, press square. Then go into the gadget section. You'll find the timer in the same place as the counter, the logic and processing section. Its icon is a clock face. Now go ahead and stamp the timer gadget onto the microchip with R2 or X. Then unequip it from your imp with circle. Let's take a closer look at the timer's inputs and outputs, shall we? You can see their names by hovering over the ports. The first input is the start timer. Once this port receives a signal, it will start the clock.
Okay.
The second one is the reset timer, which will set the time back to 0. Over on the output side, we have timer finished and timer output. Timer finished sends a signal pulse when the timer reaches the required number, which is set to 5 seconds by default. Timer output is a little more sophisticated. The signal it sends represents the timer's current progress. If, let's say, it's only halfway to its target, it will send a signal that's only half strength. So how do we connect this so the bridge only stays up for a few seconds? Well, we need the bridge to be raised when the timer is running. So create a wire on the timer output with R2 or X. Remember how we used the counter on the previous platform? We can use one here too. Just like before, connect the wire to the counter's increase count input. Then connect the counter full output to the rotator's power port. Time to see if it works. Click R3 to test it. As you can see, since the timer isn't connected to a trigger yet, the clock starts ticking as soon as we play the scene. The bridge goes up, but doesn't drop down when the timer finishes. That can mean only one thing: there's a problem with the logic. If you'd like to figure it out for yourself, feel free to check the gadgets and see what's wrong. Or you can move on to the next step and we'll go through it together.
Teach us.
So let's take a look at why the bridge stayed up after the timer finished, instead of going back down. Remember how we used the counter earlier to remember the signal from the trigger zone? Well, now it's remembering the signal from the timer. So we need to make it forget that once the timer finishes. Let's go on over to the counter gadget and hover over the inputs to see their names. This one here is the reset count, which will put the counter back to 0 and turn off the rotator. So all we need to do is connect it to the timer. But to which outputs? Ah, there we go. We can use the timer finished outputs. Hover over it and create a wire with R2 or X. Then stretch the wire over to the counter and connect it to the reset count input. But we also need to reset the timer, otherwise the logic will only work once. So let's get another wire from the timer finished output and connect this one to the reset timer input. You'll recognise it by the rewind symbol on it. All we have left to do is connect the trigger zone to the start timer port so Connie can activate it. Okay, that was a lot of connections. So,
Too many.
before we test it out, let's go over
Too
the
much.
logic we've made. First, Connie activates the trigger zone, which sends a signal to start the timer. Once the clock starts running, the timer output becomes active, which tells the counter to count up. That then turns on the rotator and raises the bridge. Now this is where the really clever stuff kicks in. After 5 seconds, the timer finishes its count, which activates the timer finished output. This in turn resets the counter to 0, cutting the signal to the rotators and lowering the bridge. And let's not forget, it also resets the timer so the logic can be triggered again if Connie didn't cross the bridge the first time. Phew! Isn't logic exhilarating? Take your time digesting all that. Logic is easier to read if you route your wires. Grab wires with X to change their paths. You can move the gadgets around too by grabbing them with R2. Feel free to test it out in play mode, but don't leave the scene just yet. I have one more thing to show you.
What's that? Come on. He's just not even talking anymore. I think it worked. Oh, maybe not.
We've set up a timer on the third platform that makes the bridge drop after 5 seconds. But I think that might be too easy for a seasoned cone like Connie. So let's make it a little bit more challenging. First, if you're in play mode, switch back to edit mode and rewind the scene with L3. Let's move in closer to the microchip with the timer. You can use the grab cam R1 to move your view, and I'll show you how you can tweak a gadget's settings. If you hover over the timer gadget, hold L1, then press square. This contains the settings for the timer. Hover over the sliders and buttons to see their names. The top slider sets the target time for the timer. If we lower this setting, the bridge will stay up for a shorter time. To adjust the value, hover your imp over the slider, then hold X. Use your imp to drag the slider left and right. Set it to around 3 seconds. It doesn't have to be exact. If you are a stickler for precision, you can adjust the slider incrementally using the up and down directional buttons. Just hover your imp over the slider and press up or down to tweak the value. In fact, why don't we make things really interesting for Connie? Let's set it to 2.5 seconds.
Sup,
You
dude?
can close
Sup,
the
D?
tweak menu now by selecting the cross in the top corner with X. Or you could use a shortcut. Just hold L1,
D29.
then press circle while hovering over the menu to close it quickly. The same shortcut works for closing microchips. Give it a try now. Hold L1, then hover your imp over the microchip and press circle.
L1 and circle.
Time to test out the scene in play mode. If you have any problems crossing that last bridge, you can always tweak the timer again in edit mode.
Oh!
Remember, you just hover over the gadget, hold L1, then press circle to open its tweak menu. When you're all set, take Connie to the last platform and walk through the door to complete this tutorial.
Got it. Next. We're cruising. Oh, don't cry. I ain't that famous. I'm not not ninja or some crazy stuff. Just doing a little tutorial stream. Mostly just trying to do a tutorial. Teach people how to play this. Going through these basic tutorials that Media Molecule has given us. Crap, so... Did we do... Oops. Okay, so we just beat the wiring and logic tutorial. We got health destroyer and checkpoints tutorial. So far we've beat all 4 of those, and then we beat that one. And we still have this stuff to go. Just a little update. So let's go. Health destroyer and checkpoints tutorial. Damage zone, checkpoints, health to objects, tweaking and balancing health destroyers, display health, creating a healing zone. Let's restart it because I already beat it. Let's go.
In this tutorial, you'll learn how to give and take away health, as well as how to use checkpoints in your scenes. Let's start by going into play mode and seeing if you can get Connie across that first gap. Whoops. Sorry, Connie. I forgot to fix that. Don't worry though. Even after falling such a long way, Connie is just fine. Only problem is, there's no way for her to get back up. What we need is for Connie to respawn on a platform if she falls, so that's going to be our next job. First, switch back to edit mode, remembering to rewind the scene with L3 as we always do after play mode. In order to make Connie respawn, we're going to use a health modifier gadget to make the floor around the platforms lethal. Health modifiers can damage or heal anything that has a health manager. And as luck would have it, Connie has one built right into her logic. Go to the assembly menu, open it with square first if it's closed, and select the gadgets menu, the one with 3 connected squares. You'll find the health modifier in the movers and output section, which is represented by a box with an arrow. Now select the clockwork heart, and your imp will be equipped with a health modifier gadget. Stamp it somewhere central near the floor using R2 or X. Then unequip the gadget with circle. Your scene now has a health modifier. But to make it work how we want, you'll have to tweak it first. We'll do that in the next step. Let's go ahead and open the Health Modifiers Tweak menu by hovering over it, holding L1, then pressing square. Here you can set all the options for how the health modifier works, including how much health is modified, which is shown in the first slider. Right now it's set to -100, meaning it will take 100 health points from anything it affects. Just enough to make Connie respawn. The modifier mode is set to per hit, so 100 health will be taken away from anything that touches it. But since we want the area around the platforms to be lethal, we need to set the modifier type to zone. Select the zone icon with X now. Then select the Zone Properties tab so we can change its size and shape. The icon is at the top of the menu and looks like a box in a zone. Look for the Zone Shape section of the menu, then select the cube. You can use the zone sliders to extend the zone. Be careful not to make it too tall. The respawn zone should be level with the pink lines around the platforms. Move the health modifier gadget nearer the floor if you need to. If you hover over the edges of the zone, you'll see white arrow gizmos appear. Grabbing these with R2 will let you change the size of the zone, so you can make sure the area around the platforms is covered. Now let's test it in play mode and see what happens. Select the cube. The icon is at the top of the menu and looks like a box in a zone. Look for the zone. The icon is at the top of the menu and looks like a box in a zone. Look for the zone shape section of the menu, then select the cube. You can use
Sorry
the zone
about that,
sliders to extend the zone.
I knew I missed
Be
something.
careful not
I had
to
to
make it
change
too
it from
tall.
impact to zone.
The respawn zone should be
Now I
level with
can
the
go
pink
here
lines
and
around the
edit.
platforms.
I had to turn my mic off for a second there.
Move the health modifier gadget nearer the floor if you need to. If you hover over the edges of the zone, you'll see white arrow gizmos appear. Grabbing these with R2 will let you change the size of the zone, so you can make sure the area around the platforms is covered. Now let's test it in play mode and see what happens.
Let's test it out. Dead.
Perfect. If Connie
Perfect.
falls off now, she'll just respawn back on the platform. Before we move on, maybe we should do something about this booby-trapped bridge. Switch back to edit mode and rewind the scene with L3. There, see what's causing it? It's that trigger zone. When Connie activates it, the bridge collapses and there's no way across. If you finished the first logic tutorial, you'll know the counter is being used to remember that the trigger zone has been activated. If you follow the wires, you'll see there's one connected to each block. These red dots on the blocks aren't gadgets. They show that a wire is connected to a setting in the block's tweak menu. Explore the logic for yourself, or if you want to move on and get Connie on her way, just delete the trigger zone by pressing triangle over it. That will prevent any of the logic from activating. Then once Connie can safely make it to the second platform, move on to the next step.
Deleted that trigger zone. Now we can just get past it. Ah, burns. Edit mode.
Now's probably a good time to show you how to add checkpoints to your scenes. When playable characters like Connie activate a checkpoint, the scene remembers their progress. So when they respawn, they'll appear at the last checkpoint instead of the start of the scene. Go to the assembly menu, then the gadgets menu. The last section you used will still be open, so close it by pressing circle over it. Expand the gameplay gear section with X and select the checkpoint. It's the one that looks like a location marker. There, now your imp is equipped with a checkpoint gadget. The direction of the checkpoint determines which way a character will be facing when it respawns. So make sure the front of the gadget, the side with the black outline, is facing the direction you want Connie to face. Remove the gadget from your imp with circle, then open the checkpoints tweak menu. Checkpoints use a detection zone, just like health modifiers. So select the zone size tab from the menu. This is set to a sphere by default, but to make sure players don't miss it, let's change it to a cube. You can use the zone size sliders to make the checkpoint cover the width of the platform. Above the gadget, you'll see a white move gizmo. Grab it with R2 to move the activation zone where you want it. Just make sure Connie can't miss it. The white handle shows the direction Connie will be facing when she respawns. Check that it's pointing the right way. Grab it with R2 if you need to adjust it. Let's close that tweak menu with L1 and circle, and try it out in play mode to see if the checkpoint remembers your progress. Sorry Connie, we're going to have to respawn you again, but it's all in the name of science, I promise. Great, there she is, right at the checkpoint again. When you're ready, go back to edit mode Rewind the scene and move on to the next step.
Next step.
This next bridge looks a bit too hot to walk on. But Connie's a tough explorer, always ready for danger, so let's give it a go. But that block is too big for Connie to jump over. Better get back to safety before it's too late. Let's switch back to edit mode and see how the bridge is damaging Connie. Move closer to the bridge and keep an eye out for any gadgets attached to it. Ah, there it is. A Clockwork Heart gadget, which means another health modifier. Looks like instead of using a zone, this one is attached to the bridge, so whenever Connie walks on it, she loses health. If only that block wasn't in the way, she could make it across. What if the block itself could lose health? We could give it a health manager of its own and see how that works. Go to the assembly menu, then open the gadgets menu. You'll need to close the gameplay gear section you opened earlier, then expand the movers and output section. Look for the heart icon, not the Clockwork Heart this time. Select it with X to give your imp a health manager. Stamp one near the block with R2 or X, then press circle to unequip it from your imp. To make the health manager affect the block, we need to attach it. The easiest way to attach gadgets to objects is to use what we call surface snap. Grab the health manager with R2 and hold it over the block. All you have to do to activate surface snap is hold L1 while your imp holds a gadget, making it hug the surface of any object you hover over.
Let go.
Now release R2 to attach the gadget to the block. You can also let go of L1 to stop using surface snap. In the next step, I'll show you how to tweak this health manager. Now that we've given the block health, let's take a closer look at it. Hover over the health manager, hold L1, then press square to open its tweak menu. The sliders here tell you the block's maximum and current health. Click R3 to play the scene, and you'll see how the health starts to go down. That's because the bridge's health modifier is damaging it. But you'll notice it's going down much slower than Connie's health when she was on the bridge. The reason for that is that this health manager has a 1-second cooldown. So whenever the block takes damage, it's invulnerable for 1 second after that. Grab the cooldown slider with X and pull it to the left with your imp. So what happens when its health reaches 0? Not a lot. But we can deal with that in the next step. For now, feel free to experiment with the health manager settings. Then play the scene with R3 and rewind it with L3 to reset the health manager. Once you're done, you can move on to the next step.
Next.
An object doesn't get automatically destroyed when it runs out of health, so we need to do a bit more before we can get rid of that block. Let's take a closer look at its health manager. If its tweak menu is still open, close that first with L1 and circle. See the output ports on its right edge. Hover over the one at the bottom, the one that has a heart with a cross over it. This is the no health output, which sends a signal when the health manager is depleted. It could be used to trigger any number of things, but now we're going to use it to destroy the block. Go to the assembly menu and take a look in the gadget section. It should still be open from earlier, when you selected the health manager. Look for the skull icon in the movers and output section and select it with X.
Destroyer.
This is the destroyer gadget, which destroys whatever it's attached to. To attach it to the block, we can use
Hold L1.
Surface Snap.
Hit X.
So hover the destroyer over the block, hold L1 to make it Surface Snap, and press R2 or X to stamp it on the block. You can unequip the destroyer with Circle now. Okay, before we connect it up, let's just see if it works by clicking R3. Oh, it works all right. When the scene is playing, the destroyer activates and destroys the block. Rewind the scene with L3 to bring it back. We don't want the destroyer to activate until the block's health has run out. To do that, we'll need to connect the no health output port to the destroyer's power.
Okay.
Now hover your imp over the no health output port of the health manager and press R2 or X to create a wire. This will make the power buttons appear on the gadgets in the scene. Stretch the wire over to the destroyer and connect it to its power with R2 or X. Good. Time to test it again with R3 and see what happens. When the block's health runs out, it will get destroyed, leaving the path clear for Connie. But how do we know how much health the block has left? We could always look at its tweak menu, but you can't see that in play mode. So click L3 to rewind the scene, and I'll show you how to display health on objects in the next step. But you can't see that in play mode. If you don't have the Health Manager's tweak menu open already, open it now with L1 and square. When you hover over the menu sliders and buttons, you'll see ports popping out of the side. These work just like the ones on the outside of the gadget, but there's a lot more of them. And you might also have noticed there's another gadget stamped on the side of the block. That's a number displayer gadget. And if we connect a wire from the current health output to the input port here, we'll be able to see the block's health count down in play mode. So let's go ahead and do that. Hover over the current health slider's output port. Then press R2 or X to create a wire and stretch it over to the number displayer. Once you've connected it to its input with R2 or X, you can switch over to play mode and test out the whole scene so far. Excellent. Now we can see the block taking damage until it's destroyed. Once you can get Connie to the next platform, switch back to edit mode and move on to the next step.
Next.
Well, Connie made it through, but she's a bit worse for wear. The burn effect you see on her is triggered by the current health output from her health manager, which gives you a visual cue of her health. The more singed she gets, the less health she has. We won't dig into how that logic works in this tutorial, but you can scope into Connie to explore it for yourself if you like. In any case, I'm not sure poor Connie has enough health to make it over the last bridge. What she needs is a bit of healing, so let's create a healing zone where she can recharge. This green pad looks like a good place to recover. We can turn it into a healing zone by placing a health modifier on it with Surface Snap. You've used Surface Snap before, so this should be no problem. Go to the assembly menu and select a health modifier from the Move as an Output menu. It's the Clockwork Heart, remember? Now activate Surface Snap by holding L1 and attach the health modifier to the green pad. Then you can unequip the gadget with Circle and open the health modifier's tweak menu. We need to change it so it heals Connie. The health modifier is set to -100 by default, which won't do Connie any good. She has 100 health to start with, so that will take it all away and make her respawn. Grab the slider with X, drag it right, and set it to +20.
Plus 20. Check. Roger that.
We want the
Got it.
healing zone to heal Connie as long as she stands on it. So you also need to set the modifier mode to continuous. You can leave the modifier type as impact, since you've snapped the health modifier to the platform. That's all there is to it. So close the tweak menu with L1 and circle and give it a try in play mode. Alright, that should give Connie the health boost she needs to cross that final bridge. She's been through a lot today, so take her through the door to end this tutorial.
Get healed up. Is it working? I don't know. Oh, yeah, it must have. Yay! Completed. Health Destroyer and Checkpoints tutorial completed. You can always return to it later. Finished intermediate, so that was a little trickier. Boom. And unfortunately, that's where we're going to have to end it tonight. Next up will be the gameplay tutorial, animation, audio, art, and not that. So it'd be sweet if I could finish it in one sitting, but it's kind of tricky. I mean, just those 6 little segments took a couple hours, so. Yeah, tune in next time if you want to see the next tutorials, and just let me know if there's anything else you want to see in the comments. Take care now. Peace out. Click.